were there. How was that experience?
It was great. So everyone just like praying for God to enable use the public schools for worship service to glorify Him. So, and I didn't know that like in New York City that much of Christians are live here. So like I was so like impressed and yeah.
At the turnout. Yes, that was an awesome march for a good cause. And actually, Haeni, in July of last year, before this case came out, our ministry, and I know you've been on our website, have actually been out in Foley Square right in front of the Supreme Court. They're actually praying about these issues. It was just amazing that this came up. We were out and just praying, and as an attorney I was just commenting on how separation of church and state, it wasn't meant for us to take the church entirely out of our culture. There are atheists and agnostics who are trying to strip our culture of crosses, of, you know, this is a part of our heritage, and the founding fathers pretty much wanted to protect the state from religious control, but separation of church and state wasn't meant to like take the church out of everything. There's a misunderstanding of the meaning of that legal term. So we were out praying, and I mentioned how, you know, we've taken prayers out of schools, and as a result our school system has gone down, and we actually just started renting in the church, right in the school, right before the decision came down. So right away we've been just fasting and praying. We asked people to give up 1 meal a day. So although we weren't at the march, right after that, right before this decision, Occupy Wall Street arose, and I just believe God is shaking New York City. God is doing something. We were out praying, Occupy Wall Street came, and then this decision, and here all these marches just sprung up, and I firmly believe God has been shaking New York City. He's not happy, folks, and you know, there has to be change, but it's going to take prayer, Haeni, to break this. It's going to take continued prayer, and I'm glad to see all the groups, councilman's office, the different prayer groups that are going on, churches coming together. It's a beautiful thing. We have a meeting November 19th on the steps of the Supreme Court, and we're actually going to walk over to where the Second Circuit decision is going to be held, and we're going to be on those steps praying on November 19th. If you can come out and join us, praise God.
Yeah, just before you mentioned it about November 19th cases, so can you explain more about that? And you know, actually federal just decided to use public school as a worship places. So yeah.
Well, again, the Bronx Household of Faith refiled a case, and the district court granted a permanent injunction, and what that is just saying that the Department of Education cannot evict the churches for now until, you know, now there's an appeal. So we won on the district level. The Department of Education now appealed it, which is what happened before. So we can't go to sleep on this decision because we won before on the lower level, and on the upper level, the case we lost. So we have to really pray because it's not over. And pretty much what's going on is the court is pretty much saying that they can't ban speech, they can't ban viewpoints like prayer or singing, and this is why it was confusing at first. They allow a group to go in to pray or to sing, but they're actually saying it's content that they're banning, meaning they're banning the activity of a church service. Meaning when you have an ordained clergy and it's more of a rigid formal structure on a Sunday, they're actually saying it consecrates the school into a church, which is really that's unbelievable, because here are people who don't even believe in church and consecration saying it consecrates. It's actually in the past decision. It turns it into a church, and so now they're saying they're banning the activity, not the free speech, but you can't do one without the next. By banning the activity, they're actually banning the speech. And this time around, the Bronx Household of Faith, I believe one of their main arguments is that there's just excessive entanglement of government with religion, Haeni, because actually what happened is, in trying to enforce the ruling of the Second Circuit, it became crazy. Here you have the Department of Education now asking us, well, what kind of service are you having? And you tell them pretty much, okay, we're going to have singing, prayer, and they're saying, well, that's a worship service. They cannot define for us what a worship or a church service is. So it just became really confusing, and it resulted in excessive government entanglement with religion. So it's going to be a very interesting case. I'm not sure which way the Second Circuit is going to rule on this, but they're going to have a hard time showing that, okay, I can allow a Boy Scouts group to come in and do prayer and singing, but I'm not going to allow a church to do it on a Sunday because there's a clergy. They could do another type of meeting, but because it's per se a church activity, a church service, we're going to ban it. It's very confusing. It's very just not clear, and I believe they're going to have a lot of problems. But again, prayer is what really is going to seal this. But you know, I'm really believing they don't have a leg to stand on because it's really just the enforcement of this entangles the department. I personally had the experience where, you know, they were saying this is worship, this isn't. Well, towards the end, they withdrew from really saying what it was because they knew, you know, now we're trying to define what religious worship is. So it'll be interesting to see how the case pans out on appeal.